This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
This is Financial Insanity, the show we're going to take the chaos of the market and turn into a clear path for your financial future. As always, I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean from McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown. And Scott today is going to help us figure out if our portfolios are as safe as we think that they are. Are we just riding a risk roller coaster? We're talking about that today. And if you have questions about anything we discussed today, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. But Scott's looking at your portfolio. Is it really safe? Important topic.
It is an important topic, Alex, and most people are totally unaware. The biggest mistake I find with seniors is they really don't understand, and or other advisors that are in the growth mode, they don't understand the risks that come, the difference between growth and income. And so I really wanted to hone in on this because people like to have that steady income. They like to have that ability and capability of knowing the check's going to show up on the first of every month when they go to the mailbox or they go to their bank account. It's showing up there. So I appreciate us talking about risk in 5 different areas I hope we're able to cover today. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And Scott, when people think of their portfolio, do you think people are generally feeling like it's a safe bet or more like a Vegas gamble? What's your take?
Yeah, you know what? They do think it's a Vegas gamble, and that's a really great question. The market really can sometimes feel like a casino, but the difference is with the right strategy, you don't have to leave it all to chance. One key factor to look at is called beta, which is essentially the risk or the heartbeat of your portfolio. If it's too high, you might be in for a bumpy ride. So obviously you are expecting the unexpected, but you want to be optimistic. But are you going to be consistent? That's the key.
And Scott, for folks, maybe they're investing for growth, others looking for consistent income. And what's really the difference? And how does somebody decide what's the better route for them?
You know, we spoke about this before. If our listening audience might remember, I like using analogies. I call it the chicken and the egg comes to mind. Think of it as the chicken as your stock, your bond, your preferred, your BDC, your MLP, your portfolio. And so, of course, think of the chicken, that's vehicle, and the egg is the dividend. And an income portfolio that's designed to make eggs. And the eggs could be by way of dividends or interest. Now, provide a consistent source of income. Yes, that's what we're looking for in that type of investment, the income portfolio. You can collect those eggs and enjoy them, or you could reinvest them by buying more chickens, which means more eggs down the line. So you don't need it now, but maybe you want it down the line. This is a great way to design and tailor-make a portfolio. And, of course, the educated audience out there that's listening right now, that's called reinvestment of dividends. You've heard this all your life, but the question I want to make sure is sometimes the people don't understand that, and I want to keep it as simple as possible because, again, I want to have a lot of dividends coming in that can be reinvested. And this, depending what kind of market we're in, that's what's so important, Alex.
So it sounds like what you're saying, Scott, more chickens, more eggs coming with those chickens. That sounds like a solid plan.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding. That's right. And cholesterol free. How about that?
There you go.
Now here's the difference, Alex. Most all people forget. In a growth portfolio, it's a way different story. You're not collecting eggs. You see, you're banking on the chicken getting bigger and bigger over time. This would equate to the growth stocks, small caps, mid caps, which are not designed for dividends, but if they do pay a dividend, the company's not going to pay it out. They're going to reinvest it in their company again to make their company grow. And that's what happens in a growth type stock portfolio when you have these tech stocks. And of course, if you need the income in this type of portfolio, you've got to start selling the chickens, the shares of stock in the portfolio, which will rapidly deplete itself if the market's dropping. Therefore, if the market's down, you've got to sell a lot more chickens, shares of stock, just to get the same income. We talk about that in my book, The Three Blind Mice, because we have an income portfolio that can last the rest of your life. Do you have that? I'm not sure. Now, everybody that is young, like yourself, Alex, and those listeners, maybe the children, they call it dollar cost averaging, where you put the same amount of money in and it grows, and it works. The challenge is when you get older, it's called reverse dollar cost averaging. Not many people are talking about that. And when you look at the portfolio, the beta, the risk factor, in a rising market, everybody's happy, Alex. I know you're happy. You see your portfolio going up, everybody's happy and having a celebration. But in a downturn, you could end up with fewer chickens and no eggs, and therefore the portfolio evaporates quickly and possibly no chance of coming back because what? You sold off so many shares, and that's not a position anybody wants to be. So I want to caution people, those that are 73, taking required minimum distributions, may just be in that position, and you're totally unaware of it. You could be in a growth portfolio selling off shares of stock, Alex.
That number, if you are maybe concerned or have questions about how some of this volatility from the past month or so might be affecting your portfolio, that number 609-488-4646 for Scott McLean, the team at McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. And what should people be thinking about, Scott, when they hear about this market volatility, the ups and downs? And I mean, how worried should people be about these potential losses?
Well, I would hope they have for those do-it-yourselfers, a good tolerance for risk. But sometimes when you're feeling more nervous than excited, it might be a sign your portfolio's beta, risk factor, is too high. The volatility can be thrilling for some people if you're at a theme park.
Yeah.
But when it's your retirement, Alex, savings, well, if that's on the line, maybe you're not so excited. So again, it's the person's internal core. Can you handle it or not handle it? But then on top of that, I've got some people calling in and say, Scott, I'd like to buy some these fancy tech stocks, NVIDIA or maybe Carvana, went from $4 to $150. These stocks that could be taking off, but these could be wonderful when you're making money. But could they go back down where they started from? Yes. So again, you might want to think about lowering the risk factor. We spoke about it before, jumping off the diving board, a high dive versus the ground level, belly flops hurt. So lowering the beta can really bring some peace of mind to many of you out there listening right now. That's right, you may be worried about whether it's what time of year it is. It could be election period. It could be interest rates changes, and you're really maybe losing sleep. Well, how do we not lose sleep? Well, that's where people give our studios a call. And they ask, Scott, can we get together? How can I get some assurances? 609-488-4646 is there for you. By the way, that's our website.com. Again, why is it there for you? Because then you'll speak to myself or George. Our whole team is designed to really, how do we help you design a portfolio that you can relate to, that you can sleep with? A lot of people want 10-15% rate of returns, especially back in the 80s. But I can promise you this, especially in 1990s to 2000, the market was screaming and no one talked about income. They talked about growth. Well, you want peace of mind when the market dropped from 2000 to 2003, when the market dropped almost 50%, or from 2007 to 2009, where it dropped almost 63%. If you want peace of mind, figure out what risk level you can have. Find out what your portfolio, the beta rating is. That's why people give our studios a call or they come in to visit with us on a one-to-one basis. And I'd love to talk to you off the air, 609-488-4646. Don't put your head on the pillow when it's so in your face. And you could take action, Alex. That's what people should do. I believe that.
Yeah, and you've mentioned it a few times for folks, and I want to make sure we're not going too high level, but the idea of beta, I know it's something that you feel like maybe isn't discussed enough. Maybe somebody's out there, maybe they have an advisor or somebody who's assisting them, and they haven't heard about this or discussed it. If you could spend just a little bit of time there on the idea of beta and why that's so important.
Understanding beta, I won't go in the woods. Let's talk about riding a bicycle. You got these big bicycles that have big fat wheels. And man, you could imagine yourself riding down the road. It's smooth. And if the road is flat and easy to ride and steady, that is wonderful. But if the road starts to get bumpy with lots of hills and dips, your ride gets a lot tougher. Right, Alex?
Yeah, of course.
And you've got to work much harder to stay balanced. You may have to stand up in your pedals so you don't get the bumps in your butt, but it's not as comfortable. Now think about the road as a stock market. The flat road means the market is stable, not going up and down. It's kind of boring and steady eddy. People love that. But bumpy road means the market goes up and down. It's a lot more volatile. So beta is like a measure of how the bumpy road is in your investments. If the portfolio has a high beta, that means your ride is going to be bumpy, could be very bumpy. Now that could be good for some people, but not everybody. It will go up and down with the market. If it has low beta, your ride is smoother with fewer big ups and downs. So again, if you don't like the bumps, you want to smooth the ride, you really want to look at your portfolio to lower the beta. But if you're okay, some of the bumps you might think's okay could really change your destination faster to the good or the bad. So again, let's understand that. And again, the key is knowing how much bumpiness you can handle before you want to get off that bike and say, I'm not getting on again.
Right. 609-488-4646, the number for Scott and his amazing team at McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown, New Jersey, serving Ocean County and beyond. Again, that number 609-488-4646. This is Financial Insanity. Thanks for joining us.
What if you ordered a pizza, but when you opened the box, a couple pieces were missing? That would be upsetting, right? Now think about how much you believe you have saved for retirement. Do you still owe taxes on that money? If you do, that could take a big bite out of your nest egg. Financial advisor Scott McLean and his team at McLean Advisory Group understand the importance of tax planning and can help you reduce the impact that Uncle Sam has on your retirement. Give them a call today to start working on your retirement tax plan. 609-488-4646. Create a plan today so that you can get as many slices of your retirement pie as possible. Call Scott McLean at 609-488-4646 today and schedule your retirement tax analysis. That's 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities. Firm may not give tax advice.
And when you pay down debt, you don't pay down the highest interest rate. The biggest mistake is you pay the highest interest rate card when you should do the snowball effect of paying down debt.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
We are pulling back the curtain on something that could change the way you think about retirement forever. You could pay less in taxes while still making more money. Would you want to know how? Of course you would. This is Financial Insanity. I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group. He is the founder and he is my friend. And we are joined today to talk about how to retire rich. And, that sounds great, Scott, paying less in taxes, making more money. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
I totally agree. I'm excited about this segment because people don't seem to get it, or maybe they're starting to get it, but they haven't implemented a game plan.
Yeah. And then, so what's the issue here? Why does this sound far-fetched, but in reality, it's just making some adjustments to get there? Talk a little bit about what the issue is.
Alex, really, it does sound like a magic trick, but it's actually just smart planning. The secret is using tax-efficient income strategies that wealthy have really been using for decades, and it's nothing new. I'll give you as much as I know and what we do so you can understand as a retiree. Dividend investing, then pulling out the dividends for income when in retirement to pay real estate taxes, to pay a car loan, whatever. The tax bracket could be from 0 to 15% to 20%. Look at Warren Buffett, Alex. I think he's worth billions. And yet his famous saying is, I pay less in taxes. I pay less in tax than my secretary. I scratched my head when I heard this years ago. Because we weren't doing this. So almost, 30 years ago, we weren't focusing on it. I changed that 25 years ago. But how? Because he doesn't live off a salary. He lives off the investments. He pulls out the dividends. And the dividend rules as of right now is beautiful. And so I don't know if you think about this, but you think about the income coming in from the dividends taxed lower, which is a beautiful structure. Now, some of you think, well, what about municipal bonds? Well, okay, that's a different ballgame in Roth IRAs. Properly designed life insurance and even tax-managed portfolios really can generate income to reduce or eliminate taxes and make your money last a lot longer. I call it the retirement income jujitsu. You can use the tax code and the advantage, of course, using it. But again, I'd rather use the tax code rather than getting a full body slam from some fancy jiu-jitsu guy who's better than me. So I can tell you, Alex, think about Warren Buffett and what he's doing.
Yeah.
His secretary was getting, of course, income as her paycheck. He was getting dividends.
Well, and talk about those percentages, Scott, just to put it in people's minds for us, to really help explain how a billionaire can pay less taxes than his own secretary. Just speak to the percentage here and the differences with the taxes.
Well, imagine I'm pulling in $60,000 of dividends, and I'm getting Social Security. I could be paying less than 10% on that total income. Number two, if Social Security changes, which I don't know if it is or isn't to be tax-free, it could be you could pull a lot more money out because dividends are taxed at a much lower rate. So let's say I'm pulling $100,000 out from my dividends. Well, that's wonderful. How much am I paying in tax? Maybe 4%, 5%. Let's say it's, according to the rules, 0 and 20%. So 20% on $100,000 of dividend. What a wonderful, wonderful tax bracket you could be in if this is you. So looking at it, looking at the tax bracket, looking at how it could work for you, this is the magic of working with someone. And I hope you're working with your advisor right now, and he or she is guiding you through this jungle of questions. Why? Because it's going to help you. Now, I've learned in the business because I wasn't taught that in my early stages of my career. And many advisors aren't looking at taxes. They'll do, Alex, what's called the put off. Call your tax guy and ask him what he thinks. Where I believe when I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice, in one of my chapters in the book, I talk about taxes, why the financial advisor should call your tax advisor or your tax CPA. And he or she, your tax person, your financial advisor, should call them and ask what's going on. What are we doing? And give some scenarios. So that relationship is now sealed. The three blind mice, now called the two blind mice, the financial advisor, tax guy, are working together for who? For you. Now, you might pay a couple bucks for that, but it could be totally worth it. So again, going back to basics, dividend investing, pulling out dividends. You're pulling out $50,000 a year. Social Security is $35,000. What is your tax bill? It could be, what, $3,000? Wonderful planning. But you've got to take time and get understanding what's going on. Don't just say, I don't know how that works. You need to understand just the basics, and the advisor should get together with your financial advisor as well as your tax, and they need to work together.
Yeah, as we have Scott today talking about some strategies to help you retire rich. If you have questions for Scott, the number is 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. And you know, we're using the Warren Buffett example about how he's paying less in taxes than his secretary, but we realize that people out there, most of us are not billionaires, Scott, but you do not have to be a billionaire to learn from this strategy. What can the common person, somebody who's near retirement, in retirement, what's the takeaways here for folks?
Pay attention to the taxes. I think I said that several times on this segment and before. Whether you understand the tax rules or not, pay attention. If your advisor is not looking at the tax return, that's a huge mistake. Or let's say they don't understand taxes, but did they call your tax preparer, your CPA? That is mistake number one, because they're blinded to the mistakes. As I put in my book, the financial planning process leads your money to a mousetrap. And many of you listening right now may be in that mousetrap or totally unaware. Why? Well, I've been with my guy for 30 years. He's so wonderful. She's so great. I love them to death. Okay. Did they look at your taxable estate, your tax returns on a yearly basis? Did they look at the legacy planning on how do we pass this money on as most tax efficient as possible? Did they review the will, the power of attorney, or the trust agreements to make sure that everything is in order? Because there are many, many rich people, Alex. And I think about this, we spoke about in our prior segment, where we talk about this guy named Steve McNair, the NFL quarterback.
Right.
2009, no will. Estimated value of the estate, $20 million. Wife had to file in court to become an administrator. Didn't have it set up. Family disputes. How about Jimi Hendrix for us old people like me? No will. But you'd think these rich people, he had $80 million worth. And of course, it fell where? To legal battles over the estate. Marilyn Monroe, let's go back then. Yep. So there are many segments. People think they got it all in order. And these are rich people. Marilyn Monroe had no will, had no trust planning at all. And I think about the greatest guy, the singer, unbelievable, Michael Jackson, 2009, $500 million estate. Did they do tax planning? Did they do estate planning, which is what I call the three blind mice? They're not working together. And the IRS claimed $434 million. And the estate, I can tell you, if you're out there, don't put this off. This is why our firm looks at the legal documents, the estate, the will, the power of attorney, the living will, the trust agreements. We look at the tax returns, and we try to put a game plan together for those who want to work with us. They should be totally thrilled that we can look at all the areas and have the relationship with your CPA and your lawyer.
Talk about your process when folks meet with you and you're having those initial conversations. Just talk about how, hey, this isn't a time to open up that checkbook. This is really a time to kind of open up your mind and talk about who you are.
The two types of people, number one, that are in retirement, is before retirement, so they're still working. They need to put a game plan together. We want to find about that, their dreams, their goals, what they want to achieve. So the dreams is a big deal. Then we talk about the dollars. Maybe you're in retirement, heading into retirement. We want to know the dollars. Where are they? Taxable, non-taxable. What's the capital gains along with the tax return? We want to look at that. We want to disseminate it. We want to spend time. And by the way, this is no cost. When we meet people for the first time, we really want to find out what's going on and how can we make it more tax efficient? How can we bolster or benefit the portfolio when you pull out money? And Alex, when we do that, we then, of course, look at the estate plan, and we want to make sure that's buttoned up. So if they're going to pass money on to the legacy, so it's the dreams, the dollars, and passing it on, the legacy. How do they want that to look? Now, I hear everybody saying, well, Scott, I want my money to, my check to bounce to the caretaker. I get that. I should say it wrong word. The undertaker.
Yeah, right.
So we want the check to bounce. Okay, well, that's not very nice. You guy, put your body in the ground.
Come on.
But notwithstanding, we want to make sure that the family is not feuding. The tax man is not smiling. The courts are not having all of your assets on I call it the laundry, as your laundry, your clothing is hanging out, drying out in the laundry. That would be your assets. Can anybody see it? How do we hide those things for those people who don't want to share all that stuff with the common public? You see, we go to probate process. How do we avoid that? And this is what we do, looking at the full picture. Now, in the financial planning area, if they decide they want to work with us, great. It could be as simple as a quick phone call to see if it's a good fit. It could be an appointment. They meet with us, Alex. They bring in their tax return, their financial portfolio. They bring in their legal documents. We ask a lot of questions. We drill down to find out really what is your dream, desire, your legacy. How do you want to look and feel? Now, this could be on a yearly basis, too, because things change. Today, you feel great. Tomorrow, you can't get out of bed. We need to discuss this on a yearly basis for the clients that we serve, because this is important. And I think if your financial advisor isn't doing that, maybe it's time that he or she was a great fit for growing your money. But the biggest problem in climbing a mountain, the Sherpa, is when you descend from the mountain, that's where the accidents happen. And I see that in the retirement planning. When you're descending, pulling money out, are they looking at all those areas? We'd like to be your Sherpa, and that might be a good fit. But again, no cost, no obligation. Let's just have a come to Jesus meeting. Let's have a discussion to see if we are the place for you. If not, we shake hands, but you're going to get some great ideas on maybe what to do and what to go back to your financial advisor and questions to ask him or her. That's what we like to do. A good name is way more desired than riches, I can tell you that.
And the number for Scott McLean, the McLean Advisory Group in Waretown, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And next, Scott's going to show us how a retired couple making $85,000 per year can pay less than $4,000 in taxes. This is Financial Insanity.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Today on Financial Insanity, we're discussing the secret to retiring rich. I'm Alex Dingman, host of Financial Insanity, here with Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. I want to remind folks, if you have questions, if something resonates with you, you want to learn more, that number for Scott and his team, 609-488-4646 to reach McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown, 609-488-4646. All right, Scott, explain to us, we teased this before the break, but explain how a retired couple making $85,000 per year can pay less than $4,000 in taxes. And here's some other numbers here with this married couple we're talking about. They have $1.1 million in dividend-paying investments, receiving an average dividend of 4.5%. That's $50,000 per year in dividend income. They also have $35,000 in Social Security benefits. So how much in taxes do they owe, Scott? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Real quick, if I wasn't doing taxes or understanding, I'd be thinking maybe $10,000 to $15,000, right?
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds like a fair number.
The tax bill isn't that. It's just right around $3,700.
Well, that sounds pretty good, Scott. I mean, okay, again, they're making $85,000 a year, but then they're paying less in tax than someone that would be making about $50,000 at a job. How does this work out, Scott?
See, the job is you've got to pay all these certain taxes, whether what state you're living in. New Jersey would be state tax, federal tax, FICA, FUCA tax, and your tax up the tailpipe. But because the tax rules, you think about number one, Social Security. You see, Social Security was developed to be tax-free. Now, if Trump's bill goes through, it's going to be a total windfall profit for those of you listening who are taking Social Security. This is why you want to keep our phone number on your back pocket, because if it happens, there's some great strategies. I'll give it to you, 609-488-4646. So if the bill goes through on Social Security, making it all tax-free, call me directly, 609-488-4646. I'd love to share with you. So that's number one, Social Security. Now, Social Security currently has rules. It can be up to 85% could be taxable. Well, this family is bringing in, according to what Alex said, they're bringing in $35,000. Could that be 85%? And that's yes, depending what kind of money's coming from. But the answer is no. You see, dividends and income is taxed at zero based on their income tax. So because the tax rules is $17,500 for Social Security, we're thinking about that. Okay. And of course it goes up to $44,000 for 85%. A lot of numbers. I don't want to screw you up, but you guys don't lose me. All right. I'll try not to lose you, especially if you just listened. How do you make your retirement as tax-free or as tax efficient as possible? Remember, qualified dividends and non-qualified dividends, two types. And qualified dividends are zero if you earn under $96,700 if you're married. And then you're getting a $32,300 deduction because you're married. You still like each other, or maybe you don't, but you're still together. Either way, that's $67,000 taxable income minus $32,300 taxable. That leaves $35,000 of taxable income. Final tax, well, we're looking at $2,320 at 10% or $1,400. And you think about at the next $12,000, because it's called marginal tax bracket, brings you up to around $3,760. Let me say it again. Marginal tax bracket for the first $23,200 is 10% or $2,320. Marginal tax bracket then goes to another level at 12%. So again, that's $1,400. I went over a lot of numbers, Alex. If you're out there and you're thinking, what the heck did he just say? Yeah, come back. Repeat it. I'd love to repeat it at 609-488-4646. 609-488-4646. Let's have a discussion about you. It could be a quick 15-minute discussion. You can PDF or send me over your tax return. I can rip through it and say, here's some game plan. Now the next section would be, how do we make it happen for you? And that's a lot, Alex. And I went over a lot of numbers, and I surely apologize if I lost you. But one thing I won't lose you in, when we meet and we sit together and we crunch the numbers, you're going to say, wow, I'm so glad I met with Scott or George or our advisors at McLean Advisory Group, because that makes sense. How come I wasn't taught this? I get this all the time when people leave our office. They go to our front desk girl and she says, Scott, they asked so many questions. They couldn't believe how much information they got. Total free. Come visit with us. I can tell you the time we spend, whether it's on the phone or in person, will totally benefit you, because taxes are a thorn in the flesh, a pebble in your shoe that just doesn't seem to be going away, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Scott, I want to, again, hit on the big number there. The married couple, $85,000 in income per year, paying $3,800 basically in taxes, given this strategy. And Scott, it's the kind of thing that's repeatable for folks. And you can learn from this to be able to bring in an individual or a couple to say, okay, how can we implement some of these strategies to be more efficient, more tax efficient with your dollars? And again, explain to folks too, without getting too into it, but if the couple had the same income from selling stocks instead of dividends, what would happen? Talk about a little bit of the difference here of selling stocks instead of, collecting the dividends.
Great question. So if they had to sell stocks for income instead of collecting dividends, I call it cannibalizing their asset. They're selling off stock shares at whatever price it is. If the price is high or low, if it's starting to go down, you're actually selling more shares of stock to get the same income. So we look at a couple things. Number one, capital gains. Is it long-term or short-term capital gains? Now, there's a huge difference, Alex, a tremendous difference. Long-term capital gains is your love affair with your money. It is the best in the world. Short-term capital gains is yucky. It's totally all taxable. Number two, market risk. When you look at the portfolio and you look at the dividends, what if the market drops 30% and you have to lose money? Up to 30% could be whacked on your portfolio. Did you sell shares of stock? You have to sell a lot more shares of stock. You're going to have a loss, and which happens to what? You're depleting your portfolio. Now, for us farmers out there, your chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. The dividend is coming out, let's say, on a quarterly basis. That is yummy. But when the stock price goes down, but they're still paying the same dividend, even though the chicken is getting skinnier, the dividend is coming out. So you're getting to eat the eggs. Or for some of you who don't need to eat the eggs, you're reinvesting. I'm trying to keep it simple because people don't understand long-term capital gains, short-term capital gains. They don't understand how it affects it. It does affect Social Security. So again, when we look at that, that's why investing in dividend is a game changer, or understanding it at least. Now, if you're investing in tech stocks, they could scream up, as we saw in up to February in 2025, and then the market took a major correction in the stocks. Hopefully they'll come back. But if you're banking on gains, if you're banking on growth, growth can turn into shrinkage. Shrinkage could turn into, well, you're not enjoying the grandchildren. You're not enjoying the family. You're not going out to eat because you're watching the computer by osmosis. You're praying and hoping it goes back up, thus ruining your enjoyment. Paying attention to the stock market, looking at it every single day. Is that what you want in retirement? Maybe it is. But for many people I deal with, they just want to know that their money is in a great place, getting a nice check on a monthly basis. And there are some really, really wonderful places to put it if you want no risk at all, Alex. And that's what we have to put together, a tax-efficient game plan.
Well, yes, and you started this whole conversation off with the question of, do you like paying taxes? And we just we had a good time with that. Of course, no one really enjoys paying taxes. We all know we have to pay some, but what we're talking about here is your finances in retirement, and this stuff can be a real game changer, Scott, when it comes to having your money work more for you instead against you, and that's really what we're talking about here, with our finances, making sure that money doesn't run out, for a retirement that could last several decades.
It could. And paying unnecessary taxes, having your portfolio in too much risk. I've seen when the market goes up, everybody wants to jump in. When it goes down, they want to yell at the financial guy because, well, you put me in here. Well, you wanted to stay in there. So now it's a fight between the financial planner and or advisor and the client, because the client wanted risk, but maybe the advisor is wise in the game by saying, are you sure you want that much risk? Beta. Do you know the beta of your portfolio? What's that? Too much risk. If you don't know your beta, you might want to give a studio a call, 609-488-4646, to understand the risk that you're facing, and maybe you could adjust that. A, so you don't run out of money. B, what if the market crashes? And C, are you paying too much in taxes? Those are the three areas. And then I guess D, what if the husband and wife, if you're married or a partnership, what if one of you die and the Social Security is off the table and the pension is cut? How does your retirement look then? These are questions we want to ask about your dreams, your dollars, and your dynasty as we look at your retirement, so you can put your head on the pillow and not worry as much, or not worry at all, knowing that your place, your money's tax efficient, your money's working hard for you, not keeping up with the stock market. The stock market is a scream, but it can also go drop down. But again, making sure as we have a steady income, the tortoise versus the hare, and then keeping your money well preserved in your retirement. And these are the areas we talk about because some people want to take risk, some don't. I don't know about you listening right now. I'd like to touch base with you. Perhaps maybe it's time to have a checkup from the wallet up. In other words, looking at it as well as the neck up, saying, you know what, maybe I do have too much risk. Or maybe you want more risk. Or maybe you need a trust to make this money really efficient and a game plan to pass on your legacy. This is what we look at in the Three Blind Mice. If you would like to get a copy of our book, when you come visit with us, we'll give it to you for free. No cost, no obligation. Come visit with us. Give us our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Again, as we try to create a tax efficient, making your money work for you. And again, we talked about reducing taxes. Maybe a dividend game plan could be just for you.
No, I love that. Thank you, Scott.
And when we come up, we're going to hear about somebody else in the area who's helping folks. We're going to hear from Robert Brown, who's going to talk about some benefits that you might not know you have.
Oh, that's great.
What if you ordered a pizza, but when you opened the box, a couple pieces were missing? That would be upsetting, right? Now think about how much you believe you have saved for retirement. Do you still owe taxes on that money? If you do, that could take a big bite out of your nest egg. Financial advisor Scott McLean and his team at McLean Advisory Group understand the importance of tax planning and can help you reduce the impact that Uncle Sam has on your retirement. Give them a call today to start working on your retirement tax plan. 609-488-4646. Create a plan today so that you can get as many slices of your retirement pie as possible. Call Scott McLean at 609-488-4646 today and schedule your retirement tax analysis. That's 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities. Firm may not give tax advice.
McLean Advisory Group is so thankful for our veterans and the sacrifices they've made over the years. We're going to talk today about some programs aiming to help these great veterans with daily activities, medical expenses, and more. Financial insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. I'm Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean.
That's right.
Today, we have a good friend of his, Robert Brown, retired Navy veteran for over 20 years. He was a chief petty officer for the Persian Gulf and now Veterans Service officer helping folks. Robert, thank you so much for serving this great country and for continuing to help folks find those great benefits.
My pleasure.
That is awesome. And Scott, I know you guys have quite the history and you like each other a little bit. You work together, you like each other, and that's a good mix, right, Scott?
Once in a while.
It is a good mix. His wife's beautiful family, took his family out on the boat. We just had some fun together. So the neatest thing is how it started as we were helping our veterans. I took a class, as I mentioned in our previous show, about the aid and attendance pension benefit, which that benefit for whether you're in a nursing home or you're at home. I mean, that benefit is really, really beneficial. My daddy was served in Korea. My grandfather served in World War II, and I am a 4F, not a Dodger. I'm a 4F. In other words, I didn't qualify because of surgeries on my body before when I tried to go in, but that was the rule in the McLean house. But notwithstanding, the aid and attendance benefit on our previous show talked about could you get benefits whether you're at home or not because you're sick or disabled, or maybe you need to go into the facility like Vineland, Paramus, Menlo Park. There's great facility. One of the best ones, I believe, in New Jersey is Vineland. But this program today, we spoke about that as a previous program, but this program today is for our veterans that serve. And there's two types of benefits, the two types of benefits that Robert is very well of. And Robert is 100% disabled veteran benefit, not because he's ugly and I'm better looking, but because he's actually, this is not textbook, this is real world. And of course, the lawyer in our office also is 100% disabled benefit, getting these wonderful benefits. There's a connected benefit, service-connected benefit, and there's a non-service-connected benefit. And Robert, if we looked at the service-connected versus non-service, we talk about the aid and attendance benefit, which is a wonderful benefit for those of you or your parents, you need to know about it. You need to ask us. And by the way, if you don't know about that, the number is 609-488-4646. Please feel free to give our studios a call if you have any questions. We'll get you in touch with Robert or someone that can handle your calls. If I'm busy, I don't want to miss your call. 609-488-4646. But Alex, we're talking about this connected benefits. Rob, there's two types of benefits. Let's give a summary of this other benefit we talk about. Well, you see on TV all the time this benefit down in Camp Lejeune. We've been doing this thing for how many years, Robert? Since 2008.
Sure, a long time.
And I have one of our gentlemen in our church who has spina bifida, which comes from the water, Camp Lejeune, and he, as child of a veteran, didn't know he qualified. And when I mentioned to him, he says, "I don't believe it." And so, of course, now he believes it. Robert, there's a lot of benefits. Let's go ahead and break it down as quick as you can as we think about this great benefit.
Okay. So generally the way this works is if you wore a uniform for some period of time, however long that was, and you got injured doing anything, it could have been your hand, your finger, your eye, your leg, your knee, what have you, and that's recorded somewhere in your medical record, then you report that. The big question to the VA before they'll pay you any compensation, this is the term, it's not a pension. This form is called a compensation. Before they pay you any compensation of money, they have to figure out, did this happen when you're in uniform, while you were active duty, or did it not? So if you were out of service and discharged, and you got a car accident, it's, quote, a non-service connected issue, and the VA will not pay that. So it had to have happened or started, or at least exacerbated while you were in the service in the uniform. So is this a service connected benefit? That's what has to be determined first. And the VA does a process to figure that out. Once that's done, they say, okay, here's your problem. I understand. I'm going to send you to a third-party adjudicator to confirm the severity of that problem. If it's hearing, again, if it's a broken leg, what have you, and where do we go from there? Is it a recurring problem, or is it a problem that's been fixed and now you're 100% better? Again, no compensation. But if there is still an existing issue, then the VA will pay this compensation of a certain percentage, equating to a certain amount of dollars every single month, again, tax-free.
And
That's
Scott, you've been helping people with their finances for over 40 years, but also very importantly, since 2008, you've been specifically helping people with their benefits if they're veterans, as you opened up the Veterans Benefit Advisory Group back in 2008. And we're talking today with Robert Brown, retired Navy Chief Petty Officer, served for 20 years, and now is a Veterans Service Officer. And guys, we have a few minutes left, and I know we're talking about some known benefits, some unknown benefits. What maybe are some other benefits or opportunities for folks that people should know about?
Well, there's a number of them. Some of them are, if you wanted dental care, you can get that. Not necessarily a particular benefit, but a benefit from having served. If you had dental issues, you can apply for a certificate of eligibility for a home loan. There are burial benefits that many people don't know about, as far as funeral services, costs incurred, the veterans cemetery, the plot, the grave marker, some of those. There's a spousal benefit that you can get for the spouses of the veteran who passed away. Again, a monthly basis for payment of that. Surviving spouse benefit, they called. Or there's dependent education benefits for the children of some of those veterans. For example, my daughter is going to Stockton University as a, quote, cut rate because the VA pays part of her education based upon my disability. So she's the recipient of my service and gets those benefits for her college education. So spouse dependent education benefits there. My wife could go to school if she would choose to because of the disability status that I'm at. And again, all of this is a monthly benefit, non-taxable. You don't talk about it to the accountants.
And Robert, I want to interject real quick because I think it's very important. The number 609-488-4646. But the point that this is great information for veterans, but also veterans' families as well. That's something for folks that are listening out there. There's opportunities for the families of veterans also. Again, that number is 609-488-4646. Robert, Scott, please continue. Got a couple moments left here. Very important stuff.
Couple things that hit my mind that I don't think we brought up. I can't find my dad's records. I can't find the DD-214. I don't know what to do. Robert, what do they do? Because this is a a reason not to follow up because you don't know what to do. B, a reason to put it off and maybe I'll get to it later. It's almost like putting your Christmas tree up on December 24th because you don't have any money. Well, that's what I did when I was broke. But this is different. This is a benefit for life. Robert, I can't find the records. What do we do?
Okay, so to answer that really is talk to me. All right, tell me what you know and tell me what you don't know. And I say that because if you don't know how to get your record, and again, this could be the military discharge document, DD-214, or the War Department, the WD document, or it could be I don't have medical records from when I was in. I was in Agent Orange, and when we got discharged, we just sent us home, and I wanted to get out of the Vietnam, so I just left. I never got my records, my medical records, to prove any of my disability. So we could start from there. The answer is come and talk to us. I know exactly where we submit to. I know the documents to submit for. We just do a couple documents, submit it, it comes in the mail, and we begin. So if you don't have documents, that's okay. We'll get them. And it's as simple as that. We know where to lead everyone to get this benefit. You start with that. You need the foundation. Then we proceed forward with an application and submission.
I think the worst thing I find out with veterans, being in this business now 40 plus years, my dad did pass away within 5 days when he had leukemia. Mom passed away in 3 months, and we never went for the benefit. I frankly never knew about this benefit until I was invited to school. I thought there was a scam, and they said, well, you pay $2,500, come to our school, learn about these benefits. I really honestly thought it was a scam. Dave Conley, one of our attorneys that we work with on estate planning, said, Scotty, what's $2,500 when you can help vets? And he always calls me a draft dodger, even though I wasn't, because I was 4F'd.
Yeah, the good friends give you the hardest time. That's for
sure. They do. They are. We've been together since 1984, Dave Conley and I. And the funniest thing, the wonderful most thing is I did go to school and I said, holy mackerel, every financial advisor should be asking the question, are you a veteran? Was your husband or wife a veteran? Maybe they passed away. Was your mom and dad a veteran? This is part of the estate planning process, Alex. As I meet with people, I'm asking lots of questions. They're asking, why are you asking these questions? Because I'm looking for benefits they are totally unaware of. I'm looking to reduce taxes, the best benefit. I'm looking to make their life much more pleasant. So when they retire, they don't worry about running out of money. They enjoy their lifestyle. And that's why I added this veterans benefit in there, because they didn't take me, Alex. And I felt guilty because that's the whole thing in the McLeans. All the McLeans have to join. That was the rule. And they didn't take me. And I frankly was scared to call my dad, saying they turned me down. They 4F'd me.
Sure.
But the moment I told him, I applied to every single facility, whether it's the Army, Navy, Marines, which I went for first. Every one of them turned me down. I didn't know they shared records. And then all of a sudden, I was afraid to call my dad. When I called him, he said, okay, son, no big deal. I thought I was going to get drilled down, because his goal and the family was to drill down people to find out the best way possible. Now, Robert, as we close on this subject, as a veteran, you've seen people apply, you've seen people get denied. And then they say, well, I applied, I did it myself, and I didn't get approved. And because they didn't get help. What do you say?
Well, first of all, I say you may not have completed every single document in every single line entry that the VA wants. So they don't explain the discrepancy on your document. They just send it back and say, sorry, not approved. So it becomes very important to know exactly what forms to fill out, exactly where to sign, how to answer the questions in order to get approved at the VA level. And based upon expertise here, that's how you get it through. We've had one claim who got approved, and Scott could verify, from start to finish in 10 days.
That was a miracle, though. That was 10 days. Don't expect
Phenomenal.
that, guys. This was a miracle. I told you very clearly, but that was wonderful.
It was.
Well,
she started coming in. The wife came in. The husband's like, his noodles went. Marine Corps vet. His noodles went south. He was getting flashbacks. He came in. She was crying. Didn't know what to do. They were burning cash. They were going to the nursing home. She came in from hearing me from other people. She came in within. And I will tell you this, I don't know how it happened so quick. I've never seen it, but it is out there. It is real, as long as you do it correct, guys.
Yep.
Alex?
Yep. Thank you.
And you need some guidance. And that's really what we're out here for. We're to guide you to where you need to be based upon your service and your commitment in military.
Thank you.
And that's where it is. And again, serving vets is ideal and in my heart every single day.
Thank you so much for that. Great way to close. And again, if you need help, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Great guest today, Veteran Service Officer Robert Brown. Robert, again, thank you for being a guest today. More importantly, thank you for serving our nation.
You're welcome.
Thanks, buddy.
Scott opened up the Veterans Benefit Advisory Group in 2008 to help veterans and their families, guiding them to these important benefits. Again, that number, 609-488-4646. The number for Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. And again, a special salute and thank you to all of our veterans.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.